To make a leaf with process number 2, you actually are using your hand as if it was a loom. So I've had to move the camera up slightly so you can see it. You always start, remember, with a cross stitch. So it's cross, twist, cross. That means the weaver is now the light purple one. And I have to hold in my hand the other 3. I'm going to lengthen them just a tiny bit more to give us a little bit more space. I then hold my hand so it's open. I place the first bobbin on the left side. The second bobbin goes between the 2 center. And the last bobbin, not the weaver, but the last bobbin, goes in the end of my hand. So I have 1 bobbin by the thumb, the second bobbin in the middle, the third bobbin at the end. I find I need to hold a bobbin that has a little bit of size to it. Some of my continental bobbins are just too small to do this with easily. Now, the weaver went over top the center thread. It now needs to go under the outside thread. I can lengthen the weaver a little bit. So it's under the outside thread on the right. So it goes over the right, under the middle, over the left, and tension it. It went over the outside, so now it goes under, over, under, tension. Goes over, under, so we're going to call that through. Tension. Under, over, under. Notice the tension is staying on my hand each time. I'm not moving it in or out or anything like we did before. It's keeping the same. The only thing that's happening is that my tension up at the top changes. How hard I'm pulling on it. I wanted, of course, in the beginning to get a point. And you're saying, you can't see much what I'm doing down there. You've seen my hand. That hasn't changed. So I'm going to move this back a little bit and move the camera down so you can see it a little bit better. So if you look at the leaf so far, you can see it started with a point and it's coming out. We're underneath on the right hand side, so now we go through, which is over and under and over. Now it's under, over, under. Tension, through, tension, under, over, under. And it's getting wider, through, under, over, under, through, tension, through, under, over, under, through, under, over, under. I find it important to tension each time. Through. And if you decide, oh, I wish I had more of a point, then in the beginning, just give it more tension. This isn't as difficult to lengthen. You don't have to hold it. You can just lengthen it. That is assuming you're not pulling it really, really hard. Through. I'm maintaining the tension and the angle on the threads the same way. I'm just tensioning it differently with the bobbin. the weaver. I'm bringing it back down. I'm pulling it in, which is what I mean by saying I'm bringing it back down. Most people find that there's one side of a leaf that always looks better than the other side. I've never quite figured out which side that is, but I always have one side, or why. The same thing happens if you're weaving. You always find one salvage edge looks better than the other. I don't know if it's the opposite of the hand, which is our dominant hand, but it seems to be true that one side of the leaf will have a really nice edge and the other won't be quite as beautiful. Notice I'm forming a point, but I have not changed the angle of my hands. The bobbins in my hand, they're still the same. But I'm really pulling it in now. And if you look, it's just a little bit longer. When I decide, okay, I've had enough, I place it back down so that the weaver is inside the outside thread. I place a pin in the pinhole in between the threads. I hold the outside threads and tighten them. I hold the vein and tighten it, and then I pull the weaver. The second leaf is not completed using the loom method. Often when completing a leaf, the ability to find the worker is extremely important. Mark your worker with a piece of thread or a rubber band, and then you won't lose it. I have 4 different colors, so it's easy for us to remember. But when a normal leaf is all the same color, it does become confusing. Also, when completing this technique, I had very short threads on my loom threads, on the 3 threads in my hand, so that you would be able to see them on the camera. I normally would have a longer thread, which makes it easier to pass the weaver bobbin through the threads, and it doesn't get caught up the same way.